Goeiedag, mijn naam is Evan, ik ben immigratie-procureur hier in Amerika. En ik wil je helpen om immigratiewet te verstaan. Now, eerste, I wanted to give you a bit more interview tips, but that's going to come towards the end of the video, so you have to sit through the house cleaning at the beginning of the video. I'm kind of torturing you, but it is what it is. For those of you new to the channel, remember to like, subscribe, share. If you are not already a channel member, please consider becoming one. It helps support this channel. And that's going to lead me into the first thing of today, the first bit of housekeeping, is the country condition packet that I've been offering Afrikaner refugees going through the refugee program, Binnen South Africa, to help supplement your trying to articulate and prove a well-founded fear of future persecution. I want to make it clear, because there was a comment earlier that was kind of annoyed and irritated, and I understand, and I want to make this 100% clear, and then I'm not going to mention it again because I've said it a bunch, and I want to move on with other things with this channel that I think are very important. But let me be clear, you do not need to give anyone, not an attorney, not an advocate, no one, a dime to help you through this refugee program. You can do it all entirely by yourself. If you needed help to go through a refugee program, it wouldn't be a very good refugee program now, would it? Expecting people who have already fled their home countries, or in your case, one of the adaptations to the refugee program is that Afrikaners and other minorities in South Africa are still in South Africa around your persecutors. It wouldn't make sense for people who are fleeing persecution to have to get an attorney. I only did this to help people who wanted to, and I said, if you donate to this channel as a supplement or paying for the convenience of having someone who've done it for you. But you can do it yourself. You don't need this, you don't need anyone. You can go look up the State Department Human Rights Country Condition Reports. You can go look up Amnesty International. You can go look up the Human Rights Watch. All of this is what we do for all of our asylum applicants here in the United States. It helps support the claim of the well-founded fear of future persecution. But again, you don't need me. You don't need it. You can do it all yourself. And in fact, let's be honest, and I've said this before, whether or not that USCIS refugee officer is even going to look at it, we don't know. I've gotten good reports. Hey, the packet was great. They took it, whatever. I've got other reports they didn't want to see it. I know here in the United States, asylum officers, sometimes they don't want any of that. You can show up with hundreds of pages of documents, and they're like, I don't want to see that crap. And they do that a lot. Other times they accept it. Do they even read it? We don't know. And there's an attorney I work with who even is, she says 100% she's convinced they don't read anything we submit to them. They could do their own, one person even said they went to the interview here for asylum, and the USCIS asylum officer said, I could do my own research. And I've heard that multiple times. So again, it's just to help. I understand many of you are on financial constraints, and it's a burden, so don't worry about it. You don't need it. And I guarantee you there are plenty of people who will stick up for me that this channel has nothing to do and isn't about making a fortune or earning money at all. You have to understand, at this point, with 11,000 subscribers, I get about 200 to 300 emails a day. This has legitimately become my third job, my third full-time job. And I do it because I genuinely, and I was talking to a friend yesterday, really sat, spent a lot of time on it, prayed on it. I was in church today, and I really believe that this is something that God has called me to do to help as best I can Afrikaners. So I'm going to continue this channel for free, but again, answering emails, responding. That's why if you asked about the packet, I send you a form response back. It's nothing, nothing personal, impersonal. I get so many emails asking so many questions about all this. I don't have the time. So I'm trying the best that I can. So I really appreciate my loyal viewers out there who understand that now with the amount of time this is taking, asking for that compensation is neither here nor there. It helps support this channel, helps me continue what I'm doing. But again, all of this is for free, the videos, all these lessons. And I got a Facebook message from someone who thanked me because they're now over here in the United States. They went through the refugee program, and they said this channel did a lot to help them get through the whole interview process and the whole refugee process. And I was moved by that. And again, it reinforced this idea that I feel really called to do this to help Afrikaners. Granted, it's a community that I have a lot of respect and a lot of respect for. And since trying to learn the language, I've now decided this is what I'm going to do to help. So that's the first thing. So remember, you don't need that packet. You can get through the whole process without it. But again, if it's something you want to supplement or to use, and it will support this channel, that's it. I'm not going to mention it again because I want to move on to other stuff. So moving on into the other things, I get comments like this. And this is motivating me. My audience is not only inside Africa. I do have a lot of Americans watching this channel as well. So in order to combat comments like this, people who don't believe that there is persecution of Afrikaners and other people of white European descent inside Africa and other ethnic minorities, I'm going to continue to make videos that you all know about. You know EFF, you know Malema, you know all of this stuff. But it's important to continue to keep it in the eye view, in the line of sight of Americans here, so they truly understand what you're going through inside Africa. So when we see, Trump having a meeting with Ramaphosa in the Oval Office, that's not just brushed off by Americans, because who the hell cares about South Africa? It should be who cares, and we should care about a pending genocide inside Africa against Afrikaners and other ethnic minorities, and the persecution that already goes on there. Because comments like this pop up, again, to try and undermine the refugee program and Afrikaner asylum seekers. Will it do anything to undermine it? No, of course not. However, it is something that we need to keep on the radar for Americans here, to understand why we're having this program for Afrikaners, and to educate Americans as to what's really going on inside Africa. So I will be posting videos, and a lot of you have sent me evidence and things going on inside Africa. Please continue to do so. If news about Malema comes up, if the EFF, if Kill the Boer, one bullet, one farmer, one settler, all that stuff, continue to send that to me, because I will use that to make videos that, again, your comments, your likes, that's great for the algorithm, helps me out a lot. And I also will send it out to Americans that I know, to continue to motivate us here to help Afrikaners and to do what we can to stop the persecution inside Africa and to give you some relief here. So that brings me to the actual interview tip that I was going to mention today. I've heard this from a lot of people, and this is actually a very interesting thing. They've said that they have felt very uneasy when they go to their either preliminary interview, or in the case of many asylum seekers here in the United States, when they go to their interview and their USCIS officer happens to be black, of African descent. They said, how do I tell them, or I felt very awkward telling them, that I'm a white person who's being persecuted inside Africa by the indigenous black African population. And I understand that concern. But here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say what should happen and then what actually happens. What should happen is that USCIS is staffed by professionals, whether they be refugee officers or asylum officers. And you have to trust that they have been trained to listen to your either past persecution or your articulation of a well-founded fear of future persecution, and regardless of their ethnic, religious, political leanings or backgrounds, to take that information and make a decision based on the facts, not based on their personal opinion. So if you happen to have an African or someone of African descent, a black USCIS officer, that's not a big deal. It shouldn't be a big deal, right? Especially for the refugee, people going through the refugee process inside Africa right now. Lay out your point, and this is why I've said in the past, it sounds stupid, but practice. Practice articulating, explain this, talk it out, go to a mirror and go through your story. Because one of the first things they look for is, are you credible? Meaning, can they believe your story? Can they believe what you're telling them? That's why you don't always necessarily need proof, because if they've done the background research and they know the conditions and your story is credible, then that's the first thing they go off of. So if you are very nervous, if you're having trouble, it's not a bad thing. They do understand that, but it does make it a little more difficult. So practice. So if you are in a awkward situation, it won't take away from your ability to articulate your past or well-founded fear of future persecution. Now, I will tell you, in the United States, for my asylum seekers, I do think that there is a prejudice against Afrikaners. And I've talked about, and it's not just from black USCIS officers, it's from everyone. There is, and I say everyone, when we talk about people on the left for the most part who are in these government positions, because right-leaning individuals, or even centrist individuals, libertarian individuals, who truly know what's going on inside Africa and believe what President Trump has said about South Africa, are going to support Afrikaners and other ethnic minorities found in South Africa. But for the most part, the left and minorities here in the United States only associate Afrikaners with apartheid and oppression and persecution of indigenous Africans in South Africa. So is there a bias? I know there is, because I've had, again, anecdotal, nothing, I don't want to say I can prove, but I'm willing to say that I truly believe there is biased against Afrikaners in the system itself, especially in the first round in affirmative asylum with USCIS and things like that. So, you do have to be aware of that. But for the most part, give everyone the benefit of the doubt and assume that this individual, regardless of their racial or ethnic or religious or political background, is a trained professional, is going to take take your story, apply the facts to the elements that is required for asylum or for refugee program, and use that and come to a reasonable conclusion. So again, my advice for these awkward situations that people are bringing up is practice your story. You know it's true. You know what you've gone through. You know what you fear. Go with evidence. Even if they take it and throw it in the garbage, you still went with evidence that you make up, that you put together. You have my option, but you don't need me. You can do this yourself, and be prepared to articulate to anyone. Think about it. If the man or woman walked in a clown suit, that's how this isn't even about race or not. If they walked in like Bozo the Clown, you would be, or like It, right? Pennywise, I'd be terrified. But if you've practiced articulating, and for all of the comments who hate Afrikaners and want to try and sow dissent and problems, this is not coaching someone on how to lie or how to manipulate an interview. This is what you should do before you go to a job interview. It's what you should do before you do anything. And the gravity of this is so important. Why wouldn't you practice? Why wouldn't you practice articulating your story? Explaining it, practicing telling your family to see, do they understand? Do I have this? What is this fear? Is it connected? Is there that nexus to the protected ground? So do that. And last but not least, if you've made it for 12 minutes, I want to say I'm proud of all of y'all, because so many things have changed since February on social media. In the Facebook groups, I see comments that have been popping up since February, but now y'all are answering the questions. I hear terms like nexus, and you have to connect it to that protected ground, which is race, and that persecution is more than mere discrimination. Or when people bring up BE, they say, yeah, you can use BE, but you need more than that. You need the threats to life and liberty. And I'm proud of y'all, because y'all have come so far, and now y'all are helping each other to get through this process, and I think that's fudging unbelievable. I think that's great. Again, more proof, you don't need me. I appreciate the support, and I'll be here, indefinitely to support the Afrikaner community and do what I can to help Americans see what's going on in South Africa against Afrikaners. But it shows me that y'all are listening. Y'all are taking what I put out, what Colonel Wyatt puts out, what all of us who are helping the refugee community is putting out, and you are doing great things with it. So I think that's great. So as always, remember to like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you for the next video.